Hello everyone. I want to introduce you guys to a book which I think some of you might enjoy, as well as a website which you guys can use to read um, the world's greatest books of all time for free. Okay, so this is just a little, video that I'm making out of interest and um, hopefully to share with you something which I like and you might like as well. So this book is called Treasure Island, and this book was written actually by the same author who wrote Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. That's Robert Louis Stevenson. This book is probably one of my favorite books of all time, and I use it sort of like as a comfort type of book in that the book is so well written that you can escape into it. Basically, it's so well crafted in terms of the writing that you can escape into it like a film almost. And this book is actually the book which really sort of created the entire sort of pirate fiction genre, or at least all of the sort of main motifs and symbols and characters that you see, like the person, like the pirate with one leg, um, that has a parrot on his shoulder. That all comes from this. Okay. And also many of the sayings and like how pirates say shiver me timbers and all these type of things. All of that, I should say a lot of that comes from this book. Okay, this is the book which really kicked a lot of that off. It really kicked off it's like the first of its kind, you could say, at least as far as I know. One of the biggest of its kind, or the biggest of its kind, perhaps, which really kicked off the whole pirate fiction and the idea of, searching for treasure and buried treasure and following a map and taking to the high seas and all of that. This is like the original sort of pirate romance. You could think about it that way. Now, there might have been other sort of pirate-based stories. I'm guessing that there probably were. But as far as I know, none of them have sort of reached the same popularity as this text. Okay, this is like the original sort of text. And I really recommend that you guys read it. Okay, I think you'll enjoy it. Maybe I'll do a little bit of reading with you here. Maybe just like a minute or so. And then I'm gonna just talk about the website with you that you can use for free. I should also say that I made a study guide of Macbeth for you guys. I put it in the community posts. It's a complete guide to Macbeth for free. You can see it if you guys need that for your essays or whatever else. Okay, so let's let's read. And these books are written really well, even from the beginning. The author puts you right into the state of mind that you're talking to someone that's actually lived an adventure. Here's how it begins. Treasure Island. To S.L.O., an American gentleman in accordance with whose classic taste the following narrative has been designed. It is now in return for numerous delightful hours and with the kindest wishes dedicated by his affectionate friend the author. Okay, so here that's just a dedication. Okay, watch this now. To the hesitating purchaser. Now he's not talking as himself, but he's talking as the main character. Okay, as if the main character is talking to you. If a sailor, if sailor tales to sailor tunes, storm and adventure, heat and cold, if schooners, islands, and maroons, and buccaneers, and buried gold, in all the romance retold, exactly in the ancient way, can please, as me they pleased of old, the wiser youngsters of today. So be it, and fall on. If not, if studious youth no longer crave his ancient appetites forgot, Kingston or Ballantyne the brave, or Cooper of the wood and wave, so be it also. And may I and all my pirates share the grave where these and their creations lie. You see, he's talking as the main character. So you're drawn right into the book right away. Okay, I'll read a little bit of the beginning for you. Part 1, The Old Buccaneer. 1. The old sea dog at the Admiral Benbow. Squire Trelawney, Dr. Livesey, and the rest of these gentlemen having asked me to write down the whole particulars about Treasure Island, from the beginning to end, keeping nothing back but the bearings of the island, and that only because there is still treasure not yet lifted. I take up my pen in the year of grace 17, and go back to the time when my father kept the Admiral Benbow Inn, and the brown old seaman with the sabre cut first took up his lodging under our roof. You can see it really draws you in it right from the beginning. It's like you want to know about this, and the fact that it says that he's not telling you what the island is because there's still treasure there. And you need to think about when this was written. This was written right in the height of the British Empire. Hmm. This is written in the 1800s. Excuse me. The British Empire was still very much a real thing, and Britain projected its power via its navy primarily, which is where you hear the phrase "Britannia rules the seas," or that the sun never sets on the British Empire, because at that time Britain was able to project power via the oceans. And at this time, the oceans had become the main way that trade was done. Yeah, because people realized that we can trade from all over the world. Yeah, we can take our boats, our ships, and now we can go to far off places and we can take what they have. You know, we can trade with them or we can exploit them either way. I'd say probably normally it was mostly trade, less exploitation. Maybe. Yeah. In any case, we can take what they have, so we can go to India, we can fill our ship with spices, and then we can take that ship to America or to some port in Europe, like um, Athens or I don't know, Cyprus or Greece, not Greece, but the south of Italy or some port in Europe, south of France, or bring it back to Britain even. And then the people here, they will pay for it and they'll pay a lot of money for it, right? Because it's coming from across the world. It's like something that they want. Hmm? And so this is essentially the beginning of globalization, the sea trade. And so what the British realized is that, and this is what I found out in sort of my research on this. How was Britain able to sort of, dominate? How were they able to dominate the sea despite being so small in terms of landmass and population? Well, basically they realized that what they ought to do is have a navy all year round, whereas so far as I know, most places were not having a navy all year round. They would prepare a navy when they had a war to fight or something like that. In any case, Britain basically figured out, how to make ships which were fast and strong, and then they projected power first by trade. They created something called the British East India Company, okay, which was a government sort of like backed. I don't know if the government owned it, I'm not sure, but it was government backed corporation company. And eventually this turned into the British Empire. So the author goes on, I remember him as if it was yesterday. This is the saber cut man. When the brown old saber cut seaman with the saber cut took up his lodging under our roof at the Benbow Inn. I remember him as if it was yesterday, and he came plodding to the inn door, his sea chest. So this is again the first sort of mention, as far as I know, in popular literature of a pirate carrying a chest. This is where it comes from. Following behind him in a hand barrow, a tall, strong, heavy, nut brown man, his tarry pigtail falling over the shoulder of his soiled blue coat, his hands ragged and scarred, with black broken nails and the sabre cut across one cheek, a dirty, livid white. I remember him looking round the cove and whistling to himself as he did so. and then breaking out in that old sea song that he sang so often afterwards. 15 men on a dead man's chest. Yo ho ho, and a bottle of rum. This is where this song you've probably heard before. This is where it comes from, also. In the high, old, tottering voice that seemed to have been tuned and broken at the capstan bars. Then he rapped on the door with a bit of a stick, like a handspike that he carried. And when my father appeared, called roughly for a glass of rum. This, when it was brought to him, he drank slowly, like a connoisseur, lingering on the taste and still looking about him at the cliffs and up at our signboard. This is a handy cove, says he at length, and a pleasant situated grog shop. Much company, mate. My father told him no. Very little company. The more was the pity. Well then, said he, this is the berth for me. Hear you, matey, he cried to the man who trundled the barrow. Bring up alongside and help up my chest. I'll stay here a bit, he continued. I'm a plain man. Rum and bacon and eggs is what I want. And that head up there for to watch the ships off. What you might call me captain. Oh, I see what you're at there. And he threw down three or four gold pieces on the threshold. You can tell me when I've worked through that, says he, looking fierce as a commander. So you can really see the language in this. It draws you in, and you can hear him talking, you can see him talking. And the imagery which is used, the similes in this are they're very nice, huh? They're very nice, and they help you really to immerse inside the story. So I would recommend this book if you want something to read. I would very much recommend that you give this one a listen. And also what you can do, what I found is if you have the text like this, yeah, like a text file, like you open it like this, yeah. So if you click on this and you open it as a text, okay. And I don't know if you can do this on other browsers, but if you have Firefox and you hit this thing, and then you press this, now it becomes an audiobook, basically, like that. This is how I pretty much just listen to the book. I don't read it uh, like this because it's easier to listen to. But I'm sure there's also probably someone that's actually made audiobook versions of it. So that's Treasure Island. I really recommend it. I'll put the link to this in the description for you guys. Now, the final thing I was going to say is that this website, okay, is called Gutenberg.org. And this website was actually found by the original creator of the ebook, the man who made the first ebook. And I think he made it in the 70s or 80s, something like that, really early. And he founded this project or this this idea of sharing free ebooks, uh, which is like the world's treasure, basically. And so this website, Gutenberg.org, I really recommend it to all of you guys. Um, when I was younger, when I was 15, 16, 14, something, 17, in my teenage years, I spent a lot of time reading these classic books. Okay, these are all the classics of world history. These are the true masterpieces, okay, of, this is the heritage of humanity, basically. These are the true masterpieces when it comes to literature. Okay, some of these books, like this one, The Prince, this is 600 years old, something like that. Hmm. This is about 600, I think it was written in 1400. Yeah, 1469. Yeah, so this book here, this is about 600 years old. Okay, a bit more. This one's about 200 years old. This is also 200 years old, roughly. Um, and some of these books, this one I think is about maybe 1,000 years old. I'm not sure. Hobbes. I think it's from 1200. 16. Oh, my bad. Okay, so this is 400 years old. Anyway, it has all the classics, yeah, is what I'm trying to, the point I'm trying to make, okay? And it's not just classics of our time, but across history, okay? It has all the classics. And when I was a teenager, I spent a lot of time reading these classics, and I still read them today because they contain, if you wanted to search, where is the wisdom of humanity, the reflections, the emotions of humanity, all of that is in here. This book here is about 2,500 years old. This, or 3,000 years old. Let me see. 2,700, yeah. So this book is almost 3,000 years old. So this book here, this book is, I believe, the same age as the pyramids. No. Okay. Yeah. So anyway, this book is 2,700 years old. Two and a half, almost 3,000 years old, this book. Now, there are other books which are as old as the pyramids, like the Epic of Gilgamesh. That's like 5,000 years old, something. But in any case, this is what a lot of people consider the foundation of, uh, some people would say Western civilization, some people would say of Western literature, like this. In any case, what I'm saying, okay, is I really recommend that you go to this website, you download the books, and you read them. Okay. If you wanna, if you wanna ask what was my foundation in terms of psychology and philosophy and understanding people and my own ethics in terms of my character and things like that, it was this. Okay, it was reading these great books, these masterpieces, these classics. Okay, because effectively what you're doing when you read these books is that you are sitting with all of the great people in of all time. Mm? You are sitting with them or with the people who are writing about them. You're meeting different people, different characters. You're learning about human nature, etc. You're being exposed to new ideas, new ideas, ideals of virtue, and all of that. So, this is how you actually educate yourself. Like, if you want a traditional classic education, you want to be intelligent and wise, also, not just intelligent, but wise. You want to be empathetic and have a good heart and a sharp mind. This is what I recommend to all of you. Okay. Doing this will take you very far. Okay, maybe even further than studying at university, although I recommend that you go to university also. But doing this will teach you about human beings, it will teach you about life, etc. So I very much recommend it. Now, if you're looking for a starting point, excuse me, if you're looking for a starting point, where should you start? Obviously, Treasure Island's a good pick. Two of my favorite authors, besides the ones that I mentioned already and things I mentioned already, one of them is Jules Verne. His books are really good. He was a French writer. These books are all in English, of course, and he wrote many of the classics which you may have heard about or you've probably seen in popular media, like Around the World in 80 Days and so on. Um, his books are really good. They're like adventure kind of stories. They're scientific, things like that. So they're like a nice escape and adventure. And then my other sort of one of my favorite authors is Alexandre Dumas, another French writer. And he wrote the very famous Three Musketeers. He also wrote The Count of Monte Cristo. Both of them are masterpieces. So this is what I'd recommend. This is what I'd recommend to all of you. Okay, if you want to become intelligent, wise, humane, and good, and you want to really self-develop, from the inside, and you can do it for free, and that's the best part. You just do it for free, and it's fun too. That's the other great part about it. Many of history's greatest, what would you call it? Rebirth stories, or people that started out one way and then they changed their lives for the better. Like for example, Malcolm X, rest in peace. Before he went to prison, Malik el-Shabazz. This is his name when he came out of prison. This is his name when he became like a Muslim and moved away from black supremacy. But before he went to prison, okay, you probably heard of Malcolm X. In any case, before he went to prison, he was a gangster. Okay, they used to call him Red, like the devil. He was a gangster. I think this is his mugshot, yeah. He was a gangster. Okay, Malcolm Little. They called him Red. So he went to prison. I don't know what his crimes were, but he went to prison. And when he went to prison, I don't think he could read. He wasn't able to read, I don't think. But in prison, he taught himself how to read by reading the dictionary one word at a time. Something like that. I think he had the basic reading ability, but he didn't. He was very poorly educated. Okay, he didn't know many words, things like that. I'm guessing perhaps he was dyslexic. That's my opinion. I don't know, but it fits with some of the people that I've taught that have been dyslexic. They have sort of a similar um, sort of situation when it comes to books and stuff. I'm not sure, but anyway, he went to prison and he taught himself how to. He taught himself a massive vocabulary. Okay, he became one of the most well-spoken speakers of all time. Um, and the way he did it, okay, like I said, was first he began with the dictionary, and then he began to read. He began to read a lot of books. And from reading books, he became intelligent. Okay, and he went from a gangster criminal to a community leader, one of the most well-known leaders of all time. Okay, and eventually, when he originally began, he joined sort of the black supremacist movement, which was fighting against racism and all that. But it wasn't so great because it was sort of racist in itself. But eventually, he transformed and he sort of changed his philosophy, towards the end of his life. And he just became a person that was about love and, you know, seeing people as human, essentially. Okay, when he became a Muslim. In any case, my point is, okay, if it worked for him, it can work for you. And I know because it worked for me. One of the things that saved me, from entering sort of crime and everything else, despite being sort of around it a lot, was my sort of insight, which came from reading and which came from thinking, you know. So, yes, if you want to educate yourself, okay, you want to do so for free in a transformative way, books is the way. Educate yourself. And even in one of the books that I mentioned to you, which is The Count of Monte Cristo, he he goes into prison unfairly, unjustly. He's put into prison. His name is Edmond Dantes. He's put into the Bastille, I think. Or is it Chateau d'If? I'm not sure. He's put into prison. I thought it was the best. I think in The Man in the Iron Mask, he's put in the Bastille. Maybe that's why I'm getting confused. In any case, he's put into prison. Okay, it must be this one. Chateau de If or If. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Anyway, he's put into prison, okay, wrongfully, and so he's angry. He wants revenge. He wants to kill, etc. Yeah. He's like immature still. He's like a teenage thinking man. Hmm? When he gets to prison, he meets this prisoner, his old prisoner, and this old prisoner begins to educate him. Hmm? He teaches him uh, about philosophy, he teaches him about science, he teaches him history, humanities. He teaches him and he reads him things. They talk. And eventually, through his education, he's able to escape from prison like this. Okay, using the knowledge that this mentor has taught him, he's able to escape. Okay, and when he escapes, he becomes like this, huh? He becomes wealthy, successful, and he's able to win in the end. Huh? He's able to sort of overcome the sort of situation that put him in prison in the first place as a successful, young, wise man now. See, he has taken the wisdom of the past, which is represented in the mentor, the old man, which is collected in all of these classic books. This is the wisdom of your ancestors. Okay, as a human being, this is the wisdom of your ancestors. All of them, from all different places in the world. Greece, America, Britain, all around the world. These books are in India, excuse me, India, Germany, all Spain, all different Ireland, all different places in the world. All these great, intelligent, wise people. Excuse me, Russia. This is the wisdom. This is the inheritance. If you would like to take it. Yeah, this is the true riches that your ancestors have left behind for anyone who wants to take it. And if you take this wisdom, you transform yourself from this, okay, hopeless, depressed, you know, weak, not very smart, reactive, emotional, not very intelligent in terms of human beings, human nature, or the world, or the past, or anything. And you take the wisdom of your ancestors, okay, from these books, etc., and then you become this. You become this. So that's what I'd recommend. Okay, so anyway, I'll put these links in the description for you, and that's all. All right, take care.